Welcome back, everyone. We are on part 5, the final part of the 2019 Smark Out Moment Awards that deals with the best and the worst of WWE before we move on to the best and worst of our own stuff. And this is the Wrestler Awards category. And sometimes that's a little bit confusing to people because they're like, isn't this all about wrestling? But yeah, this is specifically about the wrestlers themselves, the sports entertainers, the performers, whatever you want to constitute them. These are the categories such as the best and worst heel and face, or the male and female superstar of the year, and so on and so forth like that. So we got about 8 or so categories to break down here, and we're going to do the same thing that we normally do. So again, leave your comments below. Tell us your thoughts on your picks and your thoughts on our picks that we're going with. And let's just go straight into the best and the worst newcomer of the year. I'm not going to read all of them off. You can see them up on the website, because they actually had quite a bit this year. But we had, for instance, 2 people that went straight to the main roster, although they then went back down to developmental, which are Cain Velasquez and Catalina. We've got some people straight to the NXT system. Everybody from Alexander Jakesic, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Angel Garza and Austin Theory, and we got some newer people like Indy Hartwell. We've got some people that you've actually seen, like Cameron Grimes or Everrise. Scarlett Bordeaux's in the mix. We got the NXT UK people like A-Kid and Primate, and Kaylee Ray actually was not a part of the official roster in 2018. She was somebody that they brought in at the beginning of this year. Same thing with Piper Niven, so on and so forth.
And Walter.
Yeah, Walter's one of them too. And he is actually one of my potential picks for best. I had 3 people that I had in mind, and I narrowed it down to 2. The one that I had ruled out, and I feel is going to have pretty much a breakout year in 2020 to a certain extent, is Isaiah Swerve Scott. I think he's been doing some great stuff as it is, but I couldn't quite give him the best. But I've been debating back and forth between Walter and Angel Garza. And I had leaned more towards Walter up until the fact that Garza won that Cruiserweight Championship. And now I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, Garza is in the mix there. I think more than likely I'd have to pick Walter, but I can definitely make a case for Garza being the best one, too. So I guess I'll decide at the last minute, but I'm probably going to go with Walter. Who do you guys have as your best?
So up until, realizing that Walter joined in January and not at the end of last year, I was, of course, going to go with somebody who, for whatever reason, I just think is going to be huge, and that's Bronson Reed. But I'm going to go with Walter because he's fucking Walter, and he's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like Walter is probably the out-and-out favourite for this one. I probably would put just below him Angel Garza, because I thought his in-ring work since joining in the middle, well, at least debuting in the middle of the year, has been very, very good. And Kaylee Ray, because she joined the roster and quickly became the NXT UK Women's Champion. So at least credibility-wise, she's already really high up there. But I'll go with Walter because of his 2 big main event matches being 2 of the best matches of the year.
And he was in Survivor Series, and I don't think you get a better.
Well, was he really?
He was. It was bullshit, but he was.
There's a couple people on this list that, even though they technically count for this year, they're pretty much going to count for next year too. Because, for instance, like Shotzi Blackheart, she is a part of the company now, but she hasn't made her debut yet. So there's going to be carryover a little bit. And the fact that, like, we haven't seen Marcos Gomez, like, he could be anything. So we can't really judge him and be like, oh, he's the best or the worst this year, because, like, screw him. He wrestled these live events that only a couple people have seen. So there's going to be a carryover, and some of these people potentially, even though, like, Austin Theory's on this list right now, maybe he'll be the best newcomer of next year, and it kind of doesn't make any sense, because it's like, how can they be newcomer twice? But at the end of the year, you sort of have to have that kind of a thing. But even somebody like Santana Garrett, she's wrestled 2 or 3 times now. She doesn't carry over into next year. And Dexter Lumis, he wrestled that one match on NXT. I don't know why they haven't put him on any more matches, but he was in that tournament, so he can't be somebody that constitutes for next year, you know?
They haven't put Nick on TV yet, have they?
Nah, Nick Ogarelli has not been on television yet. Neither has, if I remember correctly, Omari Palmer, Robert Stone,
Malcolm Bivens has been on TV.
Coach Bali, Indy Hartwell, Edgar Lopez, Faisal, Hussein, all these different types of people. Like, there's actually a good number of people. Cal Bloom, another one. I don't think that they've put him on TV yet. And I don't actually think that they've put Dio Madden on TV as far as
a wrestler now.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though he's been a part of the commentary team, like, he hasn't wrestled on TV from what I can know. So maybe next year that's his best newcomer kind of spot. But there's the option for the worst too. And I think you all know who I'm going with for my worst.
Oh, yeah.
Nick, obviously.
Nah, it's Catalina. For reasons I've said before, I don't need to break them down again. Who you guys have for the worst?
I'm not going to dwell on it, but it's Jordan Miles. Moving on.
Yeah, I think you can't really go too much worse this year than what all the stuff that went around with Jordan Miles. And even though the Carolina thing was pretty just terrible, it's fairly inconsequential. So I think it's either Jordan Miles or Cain Velasquez, because they've signed into, I could only assume, a big money contract to essentially spend the next 2 years actually learning how to wrestle properly.
The rumor is he's going to the Rumble.
He probably will do, but yeah, he probably will do, but he probably won't do any. He'll probably like do a few little bits, pieces, get eliminated, and then we won't see him again until WrestleMania, maybe.
I think, well, I'll spoil it here. I think if he's in the Rumble, he gets thrown out by Lashley, and there's your Mania match.
I really hope that he does not win the Royal Rumble to fight Brock.
That's not happening again.
I'm nervous about that. I'm really nervous.
Not happening again.
If it does happen, are we going to have another one of those moments of, damn it, Tony, why did you speak that into the universe?
Yeah.
Just saying, it's a possibility. I would have put him down as one of my more on the favorites side of things to win. I don't know. At least as far as December 22nd, when we're recording this, he's like still not confirmed or anything for that, but I'm getting more and more nervous. Let's go to the main roster call up. So they're trying to say now it's like, well, there is no main roster. There's 3 separate brands. That's a call up. We all know it's still the same. So the people who had been brought from NXT or Developmental or NXT UK over to Raw or SmackDown this year are Aleister Black, Catalina, EC3, Heavy Machinery, Lacey Evans, Lars Sullivan, Nikki Cross, and Ricochet. I don't think I'm missing anybody else, but again, maybe I am missing somebody on any of these lists. And if that's the case, then I apologize, but leave a comment below and tell me if I missed somebody. It's probably not going to change any of our opinions, but for best, I went with Ricochet. I think that some of the other people have done some pretty decent stuff. Nikki Cross wasn't my number 2, because she's done rather well for herself, and she won the tag team titles. But Aleister Black hasn't really accomplished all that much in the grand scheme of things. EC3 having his issues. Lacey Evans never won the title either. Ricochet, he won the United States title, and he's been featured prominently pretty well here and there. Not a world champion, but he didn't need to win the world championship this year to be like the best out of this. So I got Ricochet.
Remember that he might be fighting Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, which I don't buy, but
I don't buy that at all.
You never know.
Stranger things have happened.
I'm gonna go with somebody who is not on the list, and I feel is the best athlete, or one of the best that the roster has, and that's Kairi Sane. Just because I think she's a tremendous athlete, and
didn't she get brought up in 2018?
No,
she didn't. She got brought up the SmackDown after WrestleMania with Paige as the part of the Kabuki Warriors.
Oh, really? Crap.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm missing somebody then.
So I'm gonna go Kairi Sane just because I always enjoy watching her work.
Yeah, and I would have to echo the Kairi Sane thing. I think realistically, the best 3 main roster call-ups are 3 women. It's Kairi Sane, Nikki Cross, and Lacey Evans.
I would agree.
they've been the three that have probably been featured most prominently. I mean, I understand what you're saying about Ricochet winning United States Championship, but I think Ricochet's stock has dropped considerably since coming up to Raw. He doesn't feel as special or as important as he did back in NXT.
I think I'd argue the same thing for a lot of other people too. Like, I think Kairi Sane, you know, even though she's had some stuff, she was doing better as like a solo act on NXT than she was up until recently for the women's tag situation. But since you brought up Kairi Sane and I had forgotten about her, she probably would maybe be my pick over Ricochet. So, yeah. Happens. Sometimes I forget about people. It's hard to keep track of these things throughout the whole year.
If we're objective, Lacey probably had the best year of any of the call-ups.
Nah, she didn't win the title.
She didn't win anything.
Yeah, but she main evented a lot of stuff. She did the Saudi Arabia thing.
Good for her. I'll go with I'll go with the 2 or 3 people that actually won titles on the roster. So
that's fair. And Nikki Cross, in my opinion, joins the Alexa Bliss Carmella Club and like, hey, you were just the female add-on to these groups, and now you're the only one that matters.
Let's go with the worst. I think you know who I'm going on this one.
See, I don't think you should. I don't think this should count.
I really don't
your
think
one.
You should count Carolina here, dude. There's
because
here.
You have her in the previous category as going straight to the main roster, so she technically never was in NXT before she came up to the main roster.
No, it's a newcomer. Oh wait, why do I have her listed down as main roster? Well, yeah, but she didn't go straight to the main roster though. She did go from developmental over there, so she did.
I don't know if it really
up.
counts. I don't think it really counts if it's like a week or 2 in developmental before you go up to the main roster.
And I think
and also, I'm feeling bad for her because you're really just giving everything to her in the negative side of it.
Because like she sucked what she did.
She was in the roster. She was on Raw for 2 weeks in a nothing feud between Sin Cara and Andrade that no one's going to remember in a couple of months' time.
And
probably
still,
20 time of TV.
But she still didn't do anything good in those 2 weeks.
Well, EC3's been on Raw.
Let's talk about EC3 and Lars Sullivan then.
Well, if you go with like longevity, of course those 2 beat her out. But EC3 won the 24/7 title a couple times. That's more than Carolina did. Lars Sullivan beat the crap out of people and had a good like potential future thing going on. That's more than she had going on for her. Now, Lars Sullivan had other issues. He had the anxiety stuff at the beginning of the year. He had all the backstage stuff that happened, and he got injured. EC3 got injured too, and he's been jobbed out and, you know, everything like that. But I just feel like, you know, if you do the whole like percentage win-loss type of thing or something, it's like, well, man, Carolina didn't do anything worthwhile.
Well, okay, you can stick to your guns and be stubborn about that, but I'm going EC3 all the way.
EC3 is a very valid pick, and so is Lars Sullivan.
And part of you almost wants to give this to Aleister Black. Just because of the sheer drop from his stock in NXT to what it is now. I mean, he wrestled after the obviously short-lived tag team between him and Ricochet. When he went out on his own, he wrestled about half a dozen matches on TV during the year, and he's basically just been wasted sitting on the sidelines pretty much the whole year round. But even so, at least he had a few good matches with Cesaro and Buddy Murphy, so it would have to be EC3 because the only really memorable thing that he did in a positive sense was he got a roll-up fluke victory over Dean Ambrose. And then he got immediately beat the week afterwards. So, yep, absolutely EC3.
Yeah, but you know he got there? A victory. You know what Catalina didn't get?
I hope one day she makes it back to the main roster and like headlines WrestleMania just for this.
Oh, me too. I hope that because she, like, to be honest, look, I'm talking a lot of trash about her, and this is not the last time I'm bringing her up on this list, but yeah. So, despite the fact that I'm really ragging on her 2-3 weeks or whatever she had done, I do fully acknowledge the fact that she did not get a chance to train in the Performance Center and get actually, like, you know, the knowledge to be able to perform this stuff better. But they put her in a bad situation too. They booked her to be shit. She came out there as like, oh my God, Sin Cara's got the answer to Zelina Vega, and they're like, nope, they lost. And then they're like, well, we'll put them in a tag team match, and it's like, oh, the match sucked, then they lost, and it's like, wow, what the hell? You just completely killed them. Like, the booking was bad, the performance stuff was bad, the outfit that she had on looked like they kind of threw that together at the last minute. Like, everything was bad about it. And that's not a criticism 100% for her, because she, as a performer, she'll probably learn quite a bit, and she will be great when she pops up on NXT the next time. But these two appearances really sucked. So she will be brought up again. Any other thoughts about the main roster call-ups?
Yeah, they were all disappointing for the most part.
Yeah, they should stop doing them. Just
Yeah,
leave everyone where they are.
Generally speaking, this was a weaker year compared to some of the other ones, that's for sure.
If I wanted to rig it a little bit, I'd say the best main roster call-up was the entire NXT roster getting called up to 2 hours on USA, because that was the best thing that happened.
I thought you were going to say something about if you wanted to rig it, it would be Ricochet. Let's go to tag team or stable. There's a whole lot of different ones from different kind of categories, because there's the main roster, there's people on 205 Live, there's NXT, NXT UK. There's actually a couple that I didn't know if I should constitute as like actual people that you could bring on here. Like White Wolf has competed a couple times for NXT UK, but they're not a part of the main roster, like the actual like WWE employees. So I kind of didn't put them in there. There is a whole bunch that they came in and then they came out. Like we had Dynamex at one point in NXT between Raul Mendoza and Humberto Carrillo. That was only a short-lived thing. We had the partnership between Drew Gulak and Gentleman Jack Gallagher and the Brian Kendrick. And we've got, even if you remember, Hideo Itami and Arya Daivari at the beginning of the year. Lots of forgettable things. And some that I remembered it. I had it on the list. And, you know, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. We had the Bludgeon Brothers. We had Alexa and Mickey. Because Mickey and Alexa were still actually a little bit of a thing at the beginning of the year. All over the place. Lots of different options. I went with, for my worst, a tie between the Colognes and the Ascension, because they did equally nothing this year. Now, I would probably give a little bit more of an edge to the Colognes because they did nothing and one of them got suspended, but it's kind of a bullshit suspension. Neither of these teams won a single match. Neither of them wrestled on television. And that's just not good. Like, that's the worst that you could possibly get, you know?
Yeah, but they weren't as disappointing as the Iconics. And before we go any further, yes, they did win the Women's Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania. But that was just so they could hold them for 50 plus days and do nothing with them and then promptly fuck off.
They could yell at Kayla.
That was the best thing they did all year.
Now there's some Iconics fans that are listening to you pick them and they're going, you gotta be joking me.
Are you joking me?
I can understand the picks of the Colognes in the Ascension, but because they didn't actually feature, they didn't do anything to offend me, to make me pick them as the worst. And the Iconics, as bad as they were, yeah, it's a case of like, well, at least they haven't been on screen pretty much since they lost the tag team titles. But the Forgotten Sons, it's like, I think the most egregious thing that I dislike about the Forgotten Sons is that they're really, really bad and really, really bland and really, really forgettable. And yet they still keep pushing them. And they still keep showing up on NXT TV, and they still keep getting squash victories and entering into feuds with people that are far better than them and far more over than they will ever be. So yeah, that's probably it's the one aspect of NXT which they don't seem to be able to learn and move past.
Like, they did have that really good ladder match, though.
With no, three other fantastic teams.
Yeah, everyone else had a really good ladder match around those two guys. So, and it's even worse to the point. Like, I thought that Jackson Murray could have been something, and now he just feels like a nothing alongside them. So, yeah, I feel like that experiment has pretty much failed, and they should all. Well, at this point in time, it's likely that, if WWE wasn't in so much the habit of just keeping people signed no matter what for the most part. I would say probably cut your losses with both Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler and just see if you can do something with Jackson Riker.
Let's see what we got. We got the best options. This is tough. I could see. No, see, I could see a case for two different teams. I could see the New Day, and I could see the Undisputed Era. Now, I'm going to more so lean towards the Undisputed Era, but I could see the argument for the New Day. I mean, they won the tag team titles, 2-3 times? Kofi Kingston won the WWE Championship, and they were part of the whole mix of that. Like, they technically aren't all WWE champions or anything like that, but like that group itself was keeping that going. But I do still have to say it's the Undisputed Era. I mean, they won all the belts. They are dominating in so many different ways, and it's hard to try to justify something like, I don't know, Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne over them or something, you know? And Imperium's in the mix too. They have been doing some good stuff this year. Maybe you're a big fan of Bayley and Sasha Banks, and you think that they should be there because they won the first tag team titles. I mean,
I'm a big fan of Bayley and Sasha Banks, and it's the Undisputed Era. Like,
yeah,
it really is.
I will agree, obviously, with the Undisputed Era, but I will say specifically because of the fact that it's meant to be like a tag team or stable, it's Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. Even though, obviously, you can add Adam Cole and Roderick Strong to the mix, and probably I'd add even more Roderick Strong than Adam Cole because I'm looking at more the tag team aspect of it rather than just the entire collective. Because Adam Cole will get mentioned again probably further down the line in other capacities on his own. So I'd rather this one went pretty specifically to Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish for the work they were doing in the tag team division. But I feel like it was close between them and the Kabuki Warriors for me. I think that as the actual tag team, I think they've been, outside of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, the best tag team of the year.
there's been a couple other good tag teams too. Like, I mean, they haven't done everything perfect, but like the OC has had some good stuff this year. The Revival won the titles multiple times. Viking
Grizzled Young
Raiders.
Vets. I'll give them that. They're a great tag team.
So it's like there's a good group of people, but yeah, it's the Undisputed Era. Let's go to best and worst heel of the year. I didn't write down all the options. Usually I like to try to do that, but I was just like, you know what? It's just too hard to keep track of this crap. So, no big list, but you can try to remember. I mean, usually it's hard to forget if people were necessarily a heel or if they were like really offensively bad or amazingly good or something like that. So I have 3 options that I had down for the worst, but I think I'm going to take 2 of them out of the equation. The 2 that I'm going to say are not the worst heels are Eric Young, because really, I mean, all he did was just not accomplish much. And Mojo Rawley, because he
did was not accomplishment.
He didn't accomplish much, and his whole heel shtick didn't work and all that, but I think more offensively bad was Mike Kanellis. I think that his whole gimmick really screwed him up even more because he was still supposed to be a heel, even though he was the one that was like the sympathetic one in the whole situation. And just nothing worked with Kanellis this year.
I'm really excited about this one because it's the only time I'll get to bring this person up. Worst heel is Dean Ambrose. This was an awful heel turn that happened at the end of
2018.
2018, and it carried into this year, and it was just really bad. Like, he lost all sense of direction. He got into it with Nia Jax randomly, and then to top it all off, as soon as he turned face, everybody loved him because that Shield pose was untouchable in terms of pops. Like, that always got a pop. But the Dean Ambrose turn was the worst thing I've seen, and he's having a blast right now in All Elite Wrestling. So, Dean Ambrose.
See, I could give this one to a Mike Kanellis or a Kona Reeves
Fuck off.
or the Forgotten Sons or Shane McMahon for being so obnoxious and constantly on TV, the same way with Sami Zayn. But the worst heel is the Fiend, Bray Wyatt.
I almost gave this to him.
Because and runner-up is Adam Cole.
I know that you usually justify it that way. It's usually the worst heel's the one that gets cheered.
Yeah, these are people that play up to the crowd. They get cheered very often, no matter what. I mean, Adam Cole was getting cheered in his matches against Johnny Gargano. And Johnny Gargano, I bet, would probably make people think, oh, he's one of the best baby faces, but he gets booed when he faces Adam Cole. And Tommaso Ciampa gets booed when he faces Adam Cole. And Matt Riddle gets booed when he faces Adam Cole. Everyone boos the person who Adam Cole is facing. Why is he the heel? But the same thing applies to The Fiend. I think The Fiend is even worse because he essentially took Seth Rollins, who was on a bit of a downturn anyway, and then just completely ruined any of his momentum to the point where Seth Rollins has had to turn heel off the back of a feud with a guy who's supposed to be this maniacal killer that we're all supposed to be afraid of, where everyone just like jokes around and says, oh, I love the Firefly Funhouse, and this guy's like super great and everything like that. Like, that's the complete opposite of what they should be going for with him. So yeah, has to be the Fiend, Bray Wyatt.
I will say an honorable mention for me was Johnny Gargano. I didn't like him as a heel. I didn't like Callum was saying with the other people, nobody wants to boo Johnny except when he's in the ring with Adam Cole. And it was a really weird thing to see him as the heel against Ricochet trying to be aligned with a very evil Tommaso Ciampa.
Let's go with best, though. Good side of things. I think that certain people deserve a little bit of a shout out that I didn't go with. Like, I still say that Baron Corbin gets some of the best heat. Now, some of it's not necessarily for the right reasons, and he's not my pick anyway. I still quite enjoy Sami Zayn. I think that there's a good chance that either one of you guys picked Shayna Baszler, and she was very, very close to my my best. So, did either of you guys pick Baszler?
She's definitely in one of my. I haven't fully decided yet, because I usually just stare at the options that I have available to me and just pick one when it feels right. But Baszler's definitely one of the front runners for me.
She's front runner for me, but she's not who I picked.
Yeah, so she's my number 2, and my number 1. I hate to admit it, but it's Brock Lesnar. I think that he just kept coming back and kept being an asshole and kept winning, and the overwhelmingly just oh god, you just can't beat him. Even when you beat him, he just comes back and does it again type thing. It's just it's inescapable.
Brock Lesnar's a good choice, but my pick is Baron Corbin.
Yay.
Because he's probably the strongest heel they have. He can make a babyface out of anybody. Now, granted, it's getting strongly to that point of he's killing everybody he works with just because his stuff is so uninteresting. But at least when he's on screen, he's getting the proper reaction. And there's not many people that are.
I would say that Corbin is getting the reaction of, oh, Baron Corbin's on TV, click, and then the screen goes off, and then they go do something better with their lives. But so I can't, even though Corbin is probably presented as one of the best heels on the roster, I think his work is ineffective in that regard, because more people would rather just not watch him rather than watch him get beaten up by people. Some of the other honourable mentions I wanted to put it for in the UK side of things were grizzled young veterans, because I think Zach Gibson gets incredible heat as a heel on the roster, and Cassius Ohno as well. But I think I'm going to give it to. It's close for Daniel Bryan, because I feel like somehow managing to turn himself completely heel after being one of the best babyfaces on the roster for so long is pretty impressive. But I'll give it to Shayna Baszler, because she was consistently the bully of the entire NXT women's division the entire year. So I think she deserves to be on top of this one.
My favorite house show video this year is when she goes to that kid in the front row who was saying that she doesn't deserve the title, and she says, "You did this," and then goes back in the ring with Candace and chokes her out again. Ugh, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Shayna Baszler is really great at what she does. And the only reason why I didn't give her the win is because I think that they are way too dependent upon this idea of dragging her out as the only thing that she can do is every 2, 3, sometimes even 4 weeks, she'll come out with Duke and Shafir and they'll beat somebody up. And it's like, that's really not great writing. If you do that every once in a while, that's basic, but at the same time, it's like, maybe, I don't know, like switch it up a little bit where you're doing something other than just that, you know?
Yeah, it's like when Brock Lesnar comes out and Paul Heyman cuts the same promo all the time and he just beats someone up and then he comes back and the pay-per-view wins and then goes home again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think with Baszler, the best thing in terms of her being the best heel is that she never does anything to try and get the crowd's adulation. She always just do it.
Yeah.
She keeps it simple. She keeps it basic because if she does anything super spectacular, she might get cheered for it, and she doesn't want that.
Baszler's best work as a heel is when she's actually wrestling, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to go
She's
back.
good on the mic as well.
I want to go back real quick to worst heel, just because I have to mention Bayley. Bayley as a heel is becoming exactly what I feared it would become, and that's bland and uninteresting, or whatever character she had, it's been replaced by like a generic creator wrestler, and I'm not liking it.
No, can't disagree. But let's go to the opposite side of the spectrum, the best and the worst babyface of the year. I wanted to give worst to Humberto Carrillo, but there's a much better example, and that's Tony Nese. This guy failed on all accounts as being a babyface this year. He did not come across as a babyface at all. They turned him in a weird way where they just half-assed were like, I don't know, he's a good guy, I guess. He kept doing the whole 8-pack thing to a certain extent, which is not a babyface move. And then when he stopped doing it, he had nothing else to say. He was just absolutely a waste. And it's the second time that they tried to make him a babyface, and they should have learned the last time because he did the exact same errors this time around. Thankfully, they turned him back to being a heel because they realized like he can't be anything other than a heel. And he was a champion, so that magnified the flaws of him being a babyface even more.
So I almost gave this award for worst babyface to everybody on the Raw and SmackDown roster who's babyface, because they are so, as a company overall, they are so terrible at building babyfaces up to be cheered for. It's always at the very least a split crowd between whoever the heel is and the babyfaces. But in terms of giving the worst, there are a large number of options. I'm probably going to end up giving it to Seth Rollins. Because even though at the start of the year it started off really well, the sheer drop-off after that feud with Baron Corbin was pretty monumental. To the point where go from being like the most over guy in the entire company at the start of the year to being somebody who basically people don't really want to see around anymore. Not see at all, but like just don't want anywhere near the title picture, don't want him to be in the main event scene anymore. It's just a pretty remarkable feat. But I'd also give special mentions to Humberto Carrillo, Tony Nese, obviously, Apollo Crews just for being Apollo Crews and never really being there, and both Charlotte Flair and The Miz for being completely miscast as babyfaces.
Okay, there are 3 people that Callum just said that were basically my top 3 for this list, and that's Charlotte Flair and The Miz, because as Callum just said, should never be babyface. But I don't think you can downplay the sadness that ended up being the latter days of Seth Rollins with the Universal Championship. It's unfortunate. People really wanted him to win this belt last year and the beginning of this year, but it fell off the wagon, and I think he's officially hitting Michaels and Edge and Jericho territory for me, where, yeah, you can be a face because at times you'll just be so over because of your ring work that people are going to cheer you, but you're more comfortable in your own skin as a heel. And a heel, he should stay.
On the best side of things, there's quite a bit of people who are very good baby faces. Here's a couple of names that I didn't want to give the pick to, but I still wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to, that maybe not necessarily everybody would have agreed on. Mansoor. Talk about a babyface, man. That Saudi Arabia crowd. These got people crying.
I'll admit, him winning the Battle Royal was one of the most genuine babyface moments I've seen in a while.
I mean, that's like, it's a whole cultural thing, and it's like the country pride and all that stuff, but like, I think that needs a shout out. Like, that dude got people in the crowd like bawling their eyes out and crazy excited and stuff. Of course, it doesn't translate as well for like the American audiences, because if anything, people tend to have a reaction of either like, oh, okay, that guy won, or who the hell's this guy? Or some people are like, oh, why'd they have to give it to that guy? God damn it. I don't like these people from these other countries and all this other kind of crap like that. But he's not my pick anyway. If you're talking like pure baby faces, like in and out of the ring, Mustafa Ali seems like such a fucking nice dude. Like, that guy, if he had a better track record this year, he would have been probably one of my picks. But unfortunately, things didn't work out all that well. They kind of jobbed him out after he lost like his momentum and everything. Shout out to Kevin Owens. He's had some really great babyface moments this year. But unfortunately, you're up against Becky Lynch and Kofi Kingston. I mean, how do you go with anybody other than those two?
Which one are you going to give it to?
Haven't quite decided yet.
Well, I'm going to go against... well, I was going to say I'm going to go against those two.
Really?
Oh, go ahead. I want to hear you go against them.
Because if the year had ended at WrestleMania, then he would be one of those two. But the year carried on for another 9 months after that, and in that time, it wasn't universal, but there was a growing minority of people, especially with Kofi Kingston, that essentially they were there for the win and then didn't carry on the momentum beyond him winning the title. Like, the reactions for his matches were getting lesser and lesser. People were talking about how, oh, can't wait for this experiment to be over and things like that. And Becky hasn't always been the most popular in her matches and feuds. I think the overall best babyface is Rey Mysterio.
I think that's a really good pick too.
I think he obviously has the track record behind him. He won multiple United States titles this year, and he challenged for it was the WWE Championship, yeah. And during that feud in particular with Brock Lesnar, he was the biggest babyface you could ask for, standing up for his family, taking on somebody who was much, much bigger and stronger than he is in order to just prove that he could do it, and he almost did it, and the crowd was really, really behind him. But yeah, I think he's up high up there. I'd also put close to him Rhea Ripley, but she came quite late in the year, really, so I wouldn't want to give it entirely to her. The Street Profits as well, but I feel like they kind of lost it a little bit when they came up to Raw. And I'd almost say, like, if that feud between Rusev and Lana and Bobby Lashley had started a couple of months earlier, Rusev would probably be in the discussion here as well, because he seems to be back to being as over as he was during the Rusev Day segments.
Yeah, people are very into Rusev. And in the same vein of what you guys are saying, had Daniel Bryan turned a little earlier this year, I think I would have given it to him. Go ahead.
It's good. No, you go ahead, because I was going to just mention the fact that I feel like one that will go a bit under the radar is R-Truth.
I was going to say
that's true.
R-Truth you can make a very strong case. People are genuinely always happy and excited to see him. So you can make a strong case for him as best babyface.
Or is he a heel for not just giving Drake Maverick the 24/7 title long enough so he could consummate his marriage? I mean, come on, bro.
Well, he is a heel for going into their hotel room and interrupting him. But
it might not be a heel move, but it's a dick move.
Yes. As much as I agree with Callum's arguments that WrestleMania isn't the end of the year, I have to give it to Kofi because the ride to WrestleMania was great. And even though that part in the middle was a little rough, people really wanted to see him get the moment over Randy. And by the end of the year, because of what happened with Lesnar, people were once again like, oh, this guy deserves so much more. We love Kofi. And on top of that, he comes across as so genuinely nice and level headed and real that he seems like everything you would want your babyface star to be.
I think I'd have to lean a little bit more towards Kofi in some ways and a little bit more towards Becky in some ways. And that's making this tough for me because if you go with like storyline wise, Becky had a stronger year as being like top babyface throughout the whole thing. She hasn't lost the title. She's been the featured person, main eventing more, all the other kind of things like that. But then if you look at it as saying, well, WWE saw that they had some big popular thing that they had to do, and they went with it, and then they pushed it, like, they kind of got served something on an open platter and then indulged in it. Whereas Kofi, they could have very easily just said, well, we don't agree with the fact that the crowd's going in that direction. We have this plan for WrestleMania, the hell with it. And it's almost like they did have to actually fight for that. And it kind of galvanized people a little bit more, I think. Like the women's evolution whole thing and all that. Like that's been going on for a while. And that's certainly not like a minor thing or whatever. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the Kofi thing was a little bit more natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially by the time we had gotten to WrestleMania. And like you said, this is one of the moments where they were forced. They could not ignore what Kofi did. And I think it's one of the things that gives a lot of hope to the roster too. Like, hey, listen, if you do work hard and you do show up, and one day somebody's gonna get injured and they're gonna need you, and you're gonna be so damn good that they won't be able to avoid you anymore. I think just too many magical things came together with Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, I think push comes to shove. I think I'm gonna go just very, very slightly Kofi over Becky, but to me, it's kind of like comparing two different slices of pizza, the same great looking pizza. Both slices are great. You know what I mean? I've eaten pizza quite a bit in the past couple of days. It's on my mind.
And pizza's great.
Pizza's awesome. I had pizza at AMC, actually, the movie theater. Wasn't that bad.
Pizza's the babyface of the year.
Pizza's always a babyface. I mean, come on. That's like one of the most babyface foods possible. It's almost never bad unless it's Papa John's. Then that's the biggest heel of the year. Female superstar of the year, best and the worst, of course, because that's the whole name of the game, best and the worst. I mean, I'm gonna give it to Catalina, of course, whatever. But I'll move on and I'll talk about some other ones because obviously that's just I've been beating that dead horse. There's a lot of other ones that I could have given this to. I really think that, and these were my options that I had written down before that whole situation. For a long time throughout this year, I had Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir down as worst heels. Because I really feel like they serve no purpose other than being people who can get beaten up so Shayna Baszler doesn't. And I don't think that they've progressed at all. I don't feel like they can cut promos. I don't think that their matches have been all that impressive. And this has been going on for a long while. They don't look all that intimidating either, which is funny. Because it's like they legitimately are MMA people. They could fuck up a lot of people. But I don't buy into them. And now it's well past the point where I'm like, you know what? I kind of don't even want to see that 4 horsewomen match. Because those two are going to drag that whole thing down. There's a couple other names too. And again, stop me if these are the names you guys want to do a deeper dive into. But you could give a little bit of a shout out to Alicia Fox for just the backstage stuff. That was obviously an awful year when it comes to that. Thankfully, she seems like she's getting things sorted out a little bit better. there's a lot of people who didn't really do much, like Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo weren't really a part of NXT, but I can't really crap all over that. I think that Isla Dawn had a very bad year. I think that there's not a whole lot that you can talk about with Karen Q because of her injury. Kavita DeVee still hasn't gone up to the main NXT roster, and that's kind of getting concerning because she's been a part of this long enough that she should have. I'm disappointed in Nina Samuels. I don't think that she's been pulling things off all that well. I'm obviously not a big fan of Tainara.
Yep. Ding,
There we
ding,
go.
ding.
Okay,
Yep.
there you go.
But no, well, I think out of all those ones you just mentioned, there are a lot of the, I guess, extenuating circumstances with a lot of them. Whereas Tainara has been pretty much like a constant fixture on the NXT roster for a good 2 years now, and she's as
awful.
bad. She's as bad now as she was back then, except the fact maybe maybe she's actually worked on an entrance that works for her now, but that's about it really. It just there's a lot of people in the end that I think the NXT women's roster is the most stacked women's roster maybe in like WWE's history. But there's some real dead wood in that division as well, in the form of Tainara Conchi, Aaliyah, and Vanessa Bourne.
Ooh. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put them there because they can be like, obviously not everybody's going to be a champion, right? And I think Aaliyah and Bourne together can be something. But Tanara, I don't know, man. I'd like to go to a house show and see her have a house show match, see if it's better without the pressure of television, because anytime I see her on TV, it's awful.
But there are obviously other options as well. Like there's the old faithful Tamina.
Yeah.
Because but I'd feel almost bad giving it to her this year because she was injured for so long of it. But she's never been impressive in interest imagination, and she has zero excuse to not be good, even passable in the ring at this point.
I'll be honest though, it's the first year in 10 that I finally didn't hate what I saw from her. I thought I enjoyed her as a pair with Nia Jax.
There's the Iconics as well, just because I don't feel like they're that impressive in the ring either. Liv Morgan was disappointing this year just because she had that one match with Charlotte and then completely fell off the radar. You could probably put Sarah Logan in the same category as well, because as soon as the Riot Squad got disbanded, she was just pilloried in main event hell for the rest of the year. And I'd probably also put up there Ember Moon as well.
Yeah, I hate to have to agree to something like that, but Ember Moon really fell off this year.
What do you mean? She had that great thing where it was Bailey, you used to be cool.
Oh, that's what I didn't like. Like for some reason, they don't even do it with Woods. Like Woods has this fun aura about him, but Ember Moon, it was like they saw her play D&D and they're like, "All right, you're a nerd. We're gonna have Sonya Deville break your switch. We're gonna have you tell Bailey, oh man, you used to be cool, and now you're doing bad girl things." I didn't like what they did with Ember Moon this year.
Yeah, I can't really stand by with someone who's essentially just handed a championship opportunity because, hey, I haven't fought you before. Let's have a match.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a great SummerSlam feud right there. But
yeah, for SummerSlam too. Like
yeah.
it's supposed to be the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, and that's what you got.
But I think if I'm going overall, Tainara Conchi. Don't think that I think that she's just incredibly disappointing in the ring at this point in time.
And I agree.
Yeah, she is one of those ones that if somebody were to tell me how we got a budget issue, we got to cut some people, I'd be like, all right, Tainara is one of the ones that should go. She's been here long enough.
Even over Carolina? You're going to give Carolina the chance to work?
Yeah.
All right.
Because, I mean, like, as much as I'm crapping all over her, like, yeah, she hasn't had the opportunity to really learn.
Fair enough.
Best, though, there's still quite a bit of people for best. I mean, a lot of people have had a pretty good year.
Yes.
People have won different championships. There's been, to a certain extent, like, like Asuka and Kairi Sane and so on and so forth. So we might have some different varieties here, but I think I'm going to just go with the more obvious answer of Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch, you can't argue with. She's had a great year. She main evented Mania. She's on the cover of the video game. She broke a lot of barriers. I think you got to throw Charlotte in the mix because Charlotte is never out of the mix. Shayna Baszler, which might be some of our picks.
She was a potential on my list too. Rhea Ripley was as well.
Yeah, because she had a hell of an end of a year. I think it's a little hard to say Sasha because she left for a while.
Nah,
but,
she's not on my list.
They did win the tag titles. She did come back and have that really good Hell in a Cell match with Becky Lynch. Overall, though, gotta go Shayna Baszler.
There's, again, plenty of options. Becky Lynch is definitely a firm favourite, and Charlotte Flair has been great. Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Io Shirai. They want to obviously all lump all the Japanese talent together, but I think they're the three most talented in-ring workers in the entire company. And Io Shirai in particular, I think, just give all of the women's wrestlers the same opponent. Io Shirai will have the best match with them. I'll guarantee that. I think Bayley should be considered at the very least because she has held the SmackDown Women's Championship pretty much the entire year. And Candice LeRae, I thought, came out of her shell and started to show the world how great she can be this year, as opposed to some of the work that she'd been doing in the previous years.
And it's unfortunate that all that needed to happen was Johnny being largely on the shelf outside of takeovers.
But I have to give it to Shayna Baszler, the most consistent, the best championship reign in my opinion. I think she probably at this point now is the greatest NXT Women's Champion of all time, even surpassing Asuka in my mind.
I think this belt design, I'm always going to associate with Shayna Baszler because she has been just dominant since joining NXT. And even though I kind of want to see her in the Rumble and make the jump, I don't know, man. You're losing your star. I don't know if I want to see her go.
I mean, I don't want to see her go from NXT, but frankly, either Raw or SmackDown needs her. They need something to give them a shot in the arm. Becky Lynch, or as a babyface on the side of it, needs Shayna Baszler to feud with because she hasn't got anyone else going into WrestleMania outside of Charlotte. And if people don't want to see that match again, then we're pretty much left with no option other than that.
Yeah, she needs to come up. And the fact that she lost that title now means that it's, I would assume, pretty much a guarantee.
Yeah, it's now, I wouldn't want her just hanging around NXT, which could potentially undermine Rhea Ripley's rise up now. I mean, obviously, you could give her a rematch at the next show, whatever's coming up, but I think it's better to just have Shayna Baszler go to the Rumble, move up, and let Rhea Ripley hold down the fort and see how well she can do on her own.
Now, do you keep her away for the next 4 or 5 weeks, or do you have her show up on Raw or SmackDown, whatever branch she's going to be on, and say, I'm here now, I'm in the Rumble, and I'm going to dominate?
I think it depends on your priority. If you want Raw to get more ratings, then you put her on Raw. And if you want the shock of the Royal Rumble win, because let's face it, if she pops up at the Royal Rumble, she's going to win it, then you wait until the Royal Rumble and you just maybe even put out something to fuck with people. Maybe put up something about like that she got injured in her match and she's going to be taking a little bit of time off to rehab something, and maybe even put something in NXT of her being like, yeah, I want to get my championship back, but like I got to get cleared first, and I got this stupid arm injury, and Ripley, I'm going to like rip you apart if I get a chance to as soon as I get. So then people are like, oh, maybe they're going to have their rematch at Takeover Portland kind of a thing. And then, like, surprise, surprise, like, the injury's actually, like, kind of fake, and she's in the Royal Rumble, and she wins, and she immediately the next night on Raw goes, like, I'm going to call out Becky Lynch, and, you know.
At
That's
this
the way to
point,
do
I
it.
would like to see Becky Lynch have somebody other than Charlotte worthy of sparring on the mic with, because there's nobody on Raw.
Would you guys bring up Duke and Shafir?
I would absolutely. Let's face
I
it,
don't-
they're not going to do anything in NXT by themselves. Let them be Baszler's lackeys, and it'll be okay.
I
I mean,
kind
I
of feel
don't-
like I'd split the difference.
What, have them appear on both?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say have them keep them in the Performance Center, keep them wrestling on NXT and NXT live events, and just have them appear when they need to
Yeah.
with Shayna Baszler. It's not like they appear most of the time anyway when Shayna Baszler's wrestling. So
Let's go to male superstar of the year. We have way more options for male superstars than female superstars. There's a big, big chunk of people. It's all up on the website for you to look at to see if, there's anybody that you want to pick from. What do you think we should go? Best or worst? I'll let you guys pick.
Go with worst.
yeah, let's go with.
Actually, I'll let you guys go first too. Why not? I've been doing mine first.
You want to go ahead, Callum?
Well, that's putting a lot of pressure on. They're
Set the tone for the entire 2019 Smark Out Moment Awards.
well, it will just be a case of there are a lot of potential options for the worst this year. I think in many people's eyes, you probably could put the Fiend Bray Wyatt in this category, just because of how much it's fallen off since his debut. But I'd probably put a lot of other people that are obviously a bit like had less impressive years, because at least Wyatt is a world champion now, so he has that going for him. Forgotten Sons as a collective, like, because realistically, it'd be Cutler out of the three of them if you're going with like an individual, but that would seem a little bit harsh. Mike Kanellis is high up there. Kona Reeves. It's a lot of bit. I think Lars Sullivan has to be in contention for this, for just being like just having a complete disappearing act of, okay, so you can't do the feud we wanted at WrestleMania because you had an anxiety attack. Then you finally come back. You only feud with the Lucha House Party for a while. Then all this stuff gets revealed about you online. You get fined $100,000, and then you're injured for the rest of the year. That's a pretty awful year all round. I'd also put Jeff Hardy in a similar category to that as well.
He had a bad year. He got injured. They were just about to do the Hardy Boys thing. I think they were going to go Hardy Boys Usos, and he gets injured. He's having substance troubles again. I mean, obviously you want the best for him, but he definitely had a really bad year.
Same would probably go for Jimmy Uso as well.
Yeah.
For those sort of issues they faced. I don't want to give Jordan Miles this, because I feel like that's just a little bit far for that. And obviously, I think that two that need to be considered are The Undertaker and Goldberg.
Yeah.
Because even though they're not full-time superstars, they are appearing in matches, and if you have the worst match of the year, you should at least be in contention for this as well. I mean, I'm still kind of erring and ahhing over some of them, but gun to my head, I'm probably going to go with Lars Sullivan.
Very good pick.
I'm going through all the names. You could always go with an old favorite, Jinder Mahal. I've been pretty hard on this person throughout the entire duration of the end of the year awards, but Goldberg really upset me this year. And damn it, what you had with Brock was perfect. You said he was last, and that was 3 years ago, by the way. I know it's wrestling and everybody's a worker and blah, 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 but I'm going to go Goldberg. Stop. I can deal with more of The Undertaker, because at this point, Just make it to next Survivor Series so you can say, I've been here 30 years, go away. And go away. But damn it all to hell, stop it with Goldberg.
I had a bunch of different names written down. Some of them we've already kind of addressed. And obviously there's a lot of people that haven't had a good year, but it's not really anything offensive. Like, you can't really look at Everrise and be like, oh my god, they're the worst fucking male people in the entire country. Because it's like, oh, they're just jobbers on NXT. Who gives a shit?
Tony, it's 2019. You can do whatever you want.
No, apparently it's 2019. You can't do anything you want. And somebody like Sam Gradwell, he was completely missing in action, so you can't really crap on him. There's jobbers like Jack Stars and Eric Young and Mojo Rawley and everything, but I really had to ultimately give this to Mike Kanellis, because Kanellis has gone from a guy who went nowhere to a guy who went further down and then can't even get his release. He was the whole cuck situation going on this year. I guess technically speaking, if you want to talk about it being on the record, he was beaten by a pregnant woman for a championship that doesn't even matter. Like, he did nothing good this year.
He won the 24/7 championship.
Yeah. He beat that pregnant woman, by the way.
Yeah, how could he lose the title if he didn't win it in the first place?
It's just so much bad stuff, and he didn't even get the decency of being like, all right, well, then I left and I went to AEW and I started to do something. Like, he's now just waiting for them to let him go. Terrible year for him. And the best side of things, a bunch of different options for that too. I'm pretty sure we're going to go all Big Jordan from NXT.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that guy, he's going to reach for the stars one day.
Who you guys got? There's a lot of different people we could pick from.
So many choices.
So many choices.
For much I've said about him being like a bad babyface, I think Seth Rollins is in contention for this. Was pretty much like a staple the entire year in the main event scene. Daniel Bryan was great this year. Kofi Kingston. Actually, many people will probably say more about him towards the end of it because he's probably one of the front runners.
He's one of the people on my list.
Yeah. Walter had a great year. Pete Dunne had a great year in ring as well. Velveteen Dream went a bit under the radar, but like constantly holding that North American Championship pretty much from the start of the year onwards until his injury. He had a very, very good year, like holding down the mid card of NXT. Brock Lesnar, I thought, had his best year in a while.
I would agree.
Both in ring and just as a character overall. But a real small part of me wants to give this to R-Truth, just because like he is so much fun to watch on TV. Like, even if his segments are stupid, you kind of just always find some level of enjoyment out of them. Kevin Owens had a great year as well, but I feel like next year will probably be his year, or more likely to be his year than this one was. Rey Mysterio as well, as I've mentioned, I thought he's just showing that that short period in towards the end of his previous WWE run is like far behind him now, and he's back to being as close to the old Rey Mysterio as he possibly can be at this point in time. And probably the one that I assume at least Rob is going to go for is Adam Cole.
Damn right. This for me, you guys are saying there's a lot of people. It's a one person category for me.
He's the other one on my list too. It's Adam Cole and Kofi Kingston are my two main ones.
At this point, we're talking who gets you interested in watching the show? Who gets you excited to actually sit down and watch the show, the takeover, the pay-per-view, whatever?
Razor.
As soon as I know that I'm getting to watch an Adam Cole match, I'm happy for the entirety of the day. Adam Cole had a great year, finally won the NXT title, had a hell of a November to wrap it all up. Adam Cole is the superstar of the year for me.
I don't know if I'd go between Adam Cole and Kofi Kingston one way or the other, but I mean, obviously, if you go with like who is the male superstar of the year for NXT, that's Adam Cole. Who's the male superstar of the year for the main roster? It's Kofi Kingston, in my mind. It's just a matter of which one wins out. And I guess technically speaking, NXT won Survivor Series, so I don't know if that gives Adam Cole a little bit more of a boost. But Adam Cole held down the fort in NXT when both Ciampa and Gargano were not able to do it themselves. Kofi
With
Kingston,
an injury.
Yeah, with an injury too. And Kofi had a bigger moment this year. But Adam Cole, man. Yeah, I think very, 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 very slightly I might have to go Adam Cole a little bit over Kofi Kingston.
All right,
But that's
Callum,
like
3 for
I mean,
3, or
when you're comparing like two great things like that, it's like getting second place is not a big step between the two. It's, a fraction of a second in the race kind of thing.
So all things being equal and being completely fair and objective, Adam Cole had the best year, both in ring, in charge of like the division, carrying the championship, great on the microphone, running the Undisputed Era, all of that great stuff. But there is just something about Brock Lesnar this year that makes me, because I just feel like as great as Adam Cole is, when Brock Lesnar does something, I'm paying more attention to that than anything at that moment in time. Like Adam Cole had a lot of great moments, but I can't remember most of them. I feel like I could list off pretty much everything Brock Lesnar did this year.
that's right.
And so, but I'll be objective and I'm going to give it to Adam Cole.
Well, I love that 3 for 3 Adam Cole love, but I will say Brock Lesnar, gonna agree with Callum, one of my favorites to watch this year. Boombox Brock was the funniest thing I saw all year long. He has personality when he wants to. Look at when he was backstage hunting down Rey Mysterio. That was fun. When Brock Lesnar's motivated, there's nobody better. But Adam Cole was on all year long, and that's the difference.
Brock Lesnar, for all the hate that I give that whole situation, this was the best year of Brock Lesnar in comparison to so many other things. Like, I can't deny it, So let's round it out with the best and the worst superstar of the year. This includes all the men and all the women. So you get to pick between basically the ones that you just picked from, essentially, unless there's for some reason, some way where it's like that person's the best male, but they're not the best superstar of the year, even though they're also a male. Like, it really wouldn't work out all that well. So to recap our picks, the best and the worst male and female, just so we have it for our records. And going into this, my worst female was Catalina. My best female was Becky Lynch. My best male was Adam Cole, and my worst male was Mike Kanellis. So I'm picking from it's either Catalina or Mike Kanellis for worst, or Becky or Adam Cole for best. And I'll just say my two picks and we'll kind of backtrack on this, but my best, okay, maybe I won't do that. That's really tough. I'll go with my worst then. I'm as much as I crapped all over Catalina, I'm going Mike Kanellis is worse. The Mike Kanellis stuff is more problematic than the Catalina stuff.
Fair.
I'm going to be fair on that one. Yeah. So my worst superstar of the year is Mike Kanellis. I'll go back to my best because let's celebrate the best at the end of it. But my best is going to be either Adam Cole or Becky Lynch. So recap your lists. Let's go, Callum. Recap yours and tell us your worst.
Okay, so in terms of like the two that I'm picking from for best, at the very least, when we get round to that, will be between Shayna Baszler and Adam Cole. And between the worst, it's between Lars Sullivan and Tainara Conchi. And I almost want to give the worst to neither of them and give it to John Cena.
Yeah, for just being
what the fuck? Okay, what the fuck, John? What are we not good enough for you this year?
I will. There's an argument that should be made for that because what the fuck? We deserved a little bit more effort from John Cena this year.
Yeah, but then I would be a bitchy fan just complaining about like how a guy who's given me, I don't know, 17 years of his life should be giving me another year more. It's like,
Well, I'll tell you what, it would have been better than
Idiot.
Goldberg.
what, him against Undertaker again? No thanks. But out of the two of them, I think as much as Tainara is probably the worst wrestler out of the two of them, I don't think anyone has in recent history has had a worse overall like debut year on the main roster than Lars Sullivan. So Lars will be my worst of the year.
It's fair. And recapping my list, my worst, or my best when we get around to it, will be just like Callum, Adam Cole and Shayna Baszler. My worst are Tainara Kanchi and Bill Goldberg. And Goldberg, for the love of all that is holy, go away. And I like Goldberg. I want him to stay preserved in my memory. This is tainting that. This hurt. Please stop.
So that means, despite the fact that we have so many different people that we could give lots of credit to, like, we all, I think, are in agreement that even though he's not in the running for us at the moment, when push comes to shove, gun to the head, whatever you want to constitute it, I think we all can agree one of the best superstars of the year in any capacity, male or female, main roster or not. Kofi Kingston needs a recommendation.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hell of a year for him, and he very easily could have been my pick, because my three that I had written down were the two that I mentioned before and Kofi. And it was just kind of a matter of, do I go Cole or Kofi for the whole thing like that? And you guys kind of swayed my opinion. So we really only have the three official, I guess, possible picks for Superstar of the Year for us are Adam Cole, Shayna Baszler, and Becky Lynch. Although Kofi Kingston, I'm pretty sure, would be kind of our number 4.
That'll be our Mount Rushmore of 2019.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, look at that. We did a little...
I know we got 2 men and 2 women. Perfect.
We're very equal. Even in our subconscious, we're fucking great at that. Should we go with like a consensus on this?
No, we haven't done that in the rest of the thing. Why would we start now?
I don't know.
Because I think we might end up getting there either way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth a possible discussion. Like, you guys have Shayna Baszler on your list, but not Becky Lynch, and I don't have Shayna Baszler and I have Becky Lynch. Like, let's do it this way instead of just saying like, I picked this one best, I picked that one best, I picked that one best. Do you think that I should not pick Becky Lynch and I should pick Shayna Baszler, ignoring Adam Cole?
I think there's a definite argument to be made for Becky Lynch as an overall superstar. But if we're talking just the universe of WWE, on the mic, in the ring, Shayna Baszler was better than Becky Lynch this year.
I would probably agree with that consensus. The idea that Becky got her big moment at WrestleMania, and she is one of the biggest deals on the main roster today. She got to be on the cover of the video game as well, which, even though the video game is a heaping pile of garbage, that's still something of an honor.
That's the worst of the year, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the worst moment of the year is WWE 2K gets released. But but I think that Baszler, after WrestleMania, Becky really didn't do much. She's there, but she's kind of not there almost. Like, she had those those matches with Lacey Evans. That feud completely sucked. She immediately drops the SmackDown Women's title to Charlotte Flair and doesn't really go anywhere. Then she's thrown into a nothing feud with Natalya at SummerSlam. And then she's pretty much AWOL for a little while. Obviously, she goes with Sasha Banks for a little bit. And then she loses her last 2 matches of the year. Last 2 big matches, let's say, against at Survivor Series and at TLC. So I don't think it's really been that stellar past WrestleMania for her. Whereas Baszler has been consistent. She's been the champion that entire time. She's had very good matches with Bianca Belair, to Io Shirai, to Candice LeRae, to Mia Yim, all the way through to Rhea Ripley now. So I think if you're looking for complete consistency, I think Baszler tops out Lynch, in my mind.
I'd agree.
But are you guys going Baszler or are you going Cole? That's the bigger thing.
Well, I know what Rob's going, so it doesn't even need to be.
I think I know where Callum's going too.
So,
and that's why we
Callum's-
won't. And that's why we won't get a consensus.
Yeah. So
Callum's
you
going
do the
Rinku Singh.
tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. No, I was gonna go Babatunde because he's big.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he's big and other people aren't.
Yeah. No, I think as great as Adam Cole has been in ring all year, I just think Shayna Baszler has so much star. Adam Cole's a star as well, but Shayna Baszler has so much star potential about her. I don't want.
I'm laughing at what the inevitable answer out of this whole thing is going to be because it's funny. But go ahead, continue.
Well, it's just a 1A 1B scenario really, and I just feel that having held the title the entire year and have it end on a moment as big as what it ended up being, at least on that episode of NXT, it's just a pretty much picture perfect year for Shayna Baszler.
Yeah.
So you're going Baszler over Cole, Callum.
Yeah, superstar of the year, Shayna Baszler.
Rob, what about you?
Superstar of the year, Adam Cole. You already know.
And funny enough, the reason why I'm laughing, I'm going Becky Lynch. So the hell with that whole consensus idea.
Yeah.
Well,
I think, it's
totally
the type of
fair,
thing.
though. I think it speaks to what we each look for specifically in a wrestler. You look for the star power because you're more focused on the Raw and SmackDown side of things. Callum is more of a bell to bell, and I just love.
You just love Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, if I'm going with like who was my more favorite of the year as far as like moments go, nothing beats the Kofi Kingston win at WrestleMania.
No,
I would agree.
And big shout out to Shayna Baszler for what she did as far as like holding down the fort as the NXT Women's Champion. But I look back on some of her situations and I'm like, I really didn't like some of the matches that she had earlier in the year. I felt a little bit underwhelmed with. Like, I was disappointed with the Bianca Belair feud, and I think that could have gone better. That's not necessarily Shayna Baszler's fault. It's not necessarily Bianca Belair's fault either. I think that they just kind of booked it a little bit strange. And Adam Cole, I mean, if you're talking bell to bell, I enjoyed his matches far more than Becky Lynch, because Adam Cole's been a part of multiple different match of the year candidates for me, and Becky Lynch, one of the only ones that she did that I really liked was the one with Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell. But then I look at Becky making history. She won both titles at WrestleMania. She's still the champion. She's been easily the big focal point. I guess it's kind of like, would I give the best talent of the year? I'd go to Adam Cole. But the best quote-unquote superstar of the year, I'd go Becky Lynch.
I think that's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, like if you're going to tell me that NXT is the equivalent of it, because we all know that it still quite isn't, then Adam Cole had like fundamentally like on the points scale, Adam Cole wins. But people remember Becky Lynch more. Like if you say to WWE, the quote-unquote WWE universe, and you're like, who was the superstar in 2019, I think more people will go Becky Lynch. And I kind of can't deny it, Plus, it's kind of funny that it ended up working out that way. These are our three options. You pick one, you pick one, you pick one. It's kind of like, all right, well, we're being fair. And we all kind of agree. Kofi, hats off to you.
Absolutely.
So those are the best and the worst things of WWE. Again, that's not the end of this whole 2019 Smark Out Moment Awards, because we still have the Smack Talk / Smark Out Moment side of the awards. But that rounds out WWE as far as the good and the bad and everything in between. And we still, of course, have so many different things that we could be talking about, but we've done 5-something hours of this or something at this point, so it's like, how much more do you want? And I know a lot of people are curious what our thoughts are the best and the worst of AEW. They've only had like little bits and stuff here and there. That throughout this year, they didn't have a full every week TV type thing, and also we just kind of don't have the time to be able to do that. And there's a possibility that next year we lump these together as the best and the worst of AEW and WWE, but I'm very, very much leaning towards the idea that we don't do that, and instead maybe we do some kind of a quicker thing with AEW next year. But I'm very curious what people think. We can't do just 10 times the amount of work and be able to do it. But do you really, really want us to try to figure out something to do with AEW do you really not necessarily care and you're just more in the WWE side of things? For that matter, leave a comment below and tell us your thoughts on what the best and the worst of AEW was this year. Just because we don't have the categories all set up in quite the same capacity doesn't mean that you can't tell us your thoughts about that. Maybe you have an idea of like who you think were the best commentary people this year on AEW, or the best storyline this year so far in AEW, or the mic work, or the spot, or the botch, or any of the other kind of things that we ran down here. But as far
I
as
feel
the
comfortable
WWE,
in saying that and you guys can tell me no, and we won't dive into it, but AEW Superstar of the Year, Chris Jericho? Yeah?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be a pretty solid consensus.
Well, there
I
you
mean,
go.
it's either
And
him or
then-
Sonny Kiss.
And then we can give the worst to I'm trying to think. Probably
John Silver.
Which one?
John Silver.
I would say the Dark Order in general, maybe. But
Yeah. Yeah, or
Or
whomever, the anonymous person who threw the punches.
But there's also another option to possibly get this discussion about, and that's the Patreon. So, of course, if you want to make sure that we do something towards the beginning of the year or so for 2020, we could still recap AEW in 2019. And you want to pick your poison, there's that tier on the Patreon. So if you donate to that, then we will try to do a shorter version, essentially, because we obviously don't have all the notes of every little match that's happened throughout the year and different things. So maybe that's a possibility, or maybe it pops up on a Darkcast, which is going to be Patreon exclusive. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll have more information about that going forward. I don't know. We'll see. But we want to know your thoughts on the best and the worst, your thoughts on our thoughts on the best and the worst. So drop those comments below. And we are going to continue on here with the last part of the 2019 Smark Out Moment Awards, which is going to talk about the best and the worst of Smark Out Moment, funny enough. So we will see you there. If you are on the audio-only platforms, just stay tuned. But if you're on YouTube, go ahead and click on Part 6. Adios for now, though.